You're watching All 24 News World News Program live from the capital, Algiers. Next up are the headlines. The occupation steps up raised despite the Gaza ceasefire. Trump insists the truce is holding as the WHO calls for urgent evacuation of 15,000 wounded. Coming up next, Algeria and Spain hail their strong, dynamic ties amid rising security tensions. Madrid calls Algeria a key partner, while Minister Sayoud affirms Algeria never uses migration as leverage. Also on news tonight, Boghali hails Algeria-Nigeria relations as strategic and solid. Ataf and Grossi explore the peaceful nuclear cooperation, while General Shingriha says Algeria is ready to strengthen defense ties with South Korea. And later on, Trump denies pressuring Zelensky to give up Donbass. The EU moves toward a permanent ban on Russian oil and gas, while Washington warns India of steep tariffs over continued Russian oil purchases. All this and more shortly. Welcome back to the program. It's great to have you with us tonight. First up, Zionist forces continued to violate the ceasefire in Gaza on Monday, bombing areas across the Strip and targeting schools, shelter and displaced people. In fact, 3 Palestinians were killed and several wounded in Gaza City when snipers fired on civilians inspecting their homes. Since Sunday, the death toll from ceasefire violations has risen to 50, most of them in attacks on displaced families in central Gaza. Meanwhile, Gaza's health ministry says 57 people were killed in the past 24 hours alone, 45 in direct attacks and 12 recovered from under the rubble, with 158 others wounded. Since the ceasefire, relief teams have recovered 424 bodies. Overall, the war has claimed more than 68,200 lives and left over 170,000 injured since October 7, 2023. In a related development, President Trump says the Gaza ceasefire is still holding despite dozens of Zionist airstrikes. He added that Hamas leadership hasn't violated the ceasefire, though he claimed some rebel elements within the group were accused of breaking the truce.
We want to make sure that it's going to be very peaceful with Hamas, and as you know, they've been quite rambunctious. They've been doing some shooting, and we think maybe the leadership isn't involved in that. Some rebels within. But either way, it's going to be handled properly. It's going to be handled toughly, but properly.
Meanwhile, the WHO is calling for the immediate evacuation of 15,000 injured and sick people from Gaza for treatment abroad. Regional Director Hanan Balkhi says the focus is on restoring hospitals and providing fuel and supplies, urging action while the fragile truce offers a window to deliver aid. In another story, the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics says about 96% of Gaza's population is facing severe food insecurity. The report also shows nearly 90% of the Strip has been destroyed, with over 330,000 homes and more than 85% of infrastructure wiped out.
Before the Israeli aggression, over 63% of Palestinians lived in poverty. After the attacks, the situation has escalated beyond poverty into widespread famine, with overall consumption dropping 31%, West Bank 13%, Gaza 80%, and unemployment rising. About 96% of Gaza's 2.1 million residents now face acute food insecurity.
In a similar context, Spain is urging the EU to maintain sanctions on the Zionist entity until the Gaza ceasefire is fully implemented. Spanish Foreign Minister José Manuel Alvarez said the EU can't back down, pointing to the ongoing settlement expansion in the West Bank and the fragile truce in Gaza.
We have not yet made any significant progress regarding the goals we set. The release of all hostages and detainees has not been achieved, nor has the delivery of humanitarian aid. This is an entirely new phase, and as we have seen, it is extremely fragile. The European Union cannot back down on the sanctions imposed on Israelis who seize Palestinian land in the West Bank, nor can it allow a prolonged conflict that would undermine the ceasefire, hinder the flow of humanitarian aid, and block the prospect of a normal future for Palestinians in Gaza.
And speaking of Spain, Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune met with Spain's Interior Minister Fernando Grande Marlaska Gomez on Monday alongside Algeria's Interior Minister Said Sayoud and the President's Chief of Staff Boualem Boualem. After the meeting, Marlaska Gomez said it reflects both countries' strong commitment to deepening ties. He highlighted efforts to boost cooperation on illegal immigration, disaster prevention, and other shared challenges, calling the visit a successful outcome of ongoing collaboration. In the same context, Algerian Interior Minister Said Sayoud met with his Spanish counterpart Fernando Grande Marlaska in Algiers on Monday to discuss security, civil protection, road safety, and disaster management. Sayoud praised the strong Algerian-Spanish cooperation and called the meeting an opportunity to address regional and international security challenges together. He also highlighted progress from the Joint Security Cooperation Committee in Madrid, including faster handling of requests to recover illicitly acquired funds, and reaffirmed Algeria's commitment to strengthening ties with Spain.
إن الوتيرة المدعومة للزيارات الرسمية التي تمت من قبل كبار المسؤولين في الوزارتين.
The sustained pace of official visits carried out by senior officials from both ministries is a clear reflection of the dynamism and depth of our bilateral cooperation within a regional and international context marked by rising security challenges related to counterterrorism, cybersecurity, drug trafficking, and illegal migration. Our meeting today once again provides a valuable opportunity to exchange views and perspectives on these various threats. This calls for the consolidation of our efforts and concerted action to develop sustainable solutions in line with the wise vision and noble directives of the higher authorities in both our countries.
For his part, the Spanish Interior Minister Fernando Grande Marlaska said Algeria is a key partner for Madrid, highlighting the strength of diplomatic ties between the two countries. At the opening of the bilateral meeting on Monday, he called Interior Affairs cooperation a true partnership and described the joint efforts as a model of constructive and fruitful collaboration.
First of all, I would like to emphasize the strength of diplomatic relations between our two countries. Algeria, without a shadow of a doubt, is a key partner for Spain in various matters, whether in terms of bilateral cooperation we can address or at the internal level, which clearly reflects a genuine partnership between our nations. The efforts made so far by both ministerial teams stand as a model of fruitful and constructive cooperation between our two countries, and as Mr. Said mentioned, these efforts and developments fall within the framework of monitoring the implementation of the agreements signed between the two nations in 2008 concerning the fight against organized crime and terrorism.
On the same occasion, Spain's Interior Minister praised Algeria's work against illegal immigration and criminal networks, stressing the need for joint action and stronger cooperation to boost the effectiveness of these efforts.
We would like to express our deep appreciation for the effort made to combat illegal migration and dismantle criminal networks. In this regard, I wish to commend the work of the Algerian forces, who are committed to preserving human life. We highly value the continued efforts of the Algerian authorities to ease migratory pressure, while also recognizing that criminal organizations have shown great adaptability, constantly changing their methods and routes to pursue human trafficking activities. Therefore, we have no alternative but to strengthen joint action, enhance coordination, and unify our efforts and capabilities to more effective in combating these criminal networks.
Algerian Interior Minister Said Sayoud said Algeria does not use illegal immigration as a bargaining tool with other countries. Speaking at a bilateral meeting with Spain on Monday, he noted Algeria's efforts are driven by national interests, international commitments, and cooperation with partners. Sayoud added that last year, Algeria blocked over 100,000 illegal migrants from reaching North Africa and Europe and returned more than 82,000 this year under humane conditions. He called for a balanced approach that combines security and humanitarian concerns to curb illegal migration.
It is important to emphasize that Algeria, despite the pressures and challenges posed by this phenomenon, never uses the issue of irregular migration in any way as a means of blackmail or bargaining. I repeat, not as a means of blackmail or bargaining with partner countries, particularly European countries, as some parties do. For us, this is a humanitarian matter, one in which we prioritize the suffering of individuals who are often driven by economic hardship and crises to undertake such perilous journeys. The efforts we deploy to address and contain this situation stem from our national interest and are fully consistent with our international commitments within the framework of genuine cooperation with our partners.
In another story, the Speaker of Nigeria's House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, arrived in Algiers on Monday, leading a parliamentary delegation. He was welcomed by Algeria's National People's Assembly Speaker, Ibrahim Bughali. The visit aims to strengthen parliamentary ties, exchange experiences, and boost African cooperation. Bughali called Algeria-Nigeria relations strategic, highlighting economic and parliamentary collaboration, while Abbas praised Algeria's role in combating terrorism and called it a key partner. Meanwhile, both countries signed a joint memorandum to enhance consultation, coordination, and the exchange of parliamentary expertise, making a milestone in bilateral cooperation. In a different story, Algeria and the IAEA met in Algiers on Monday to discuss cooperation in the peaceful use of nuclear energy. Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf and IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi reviewed existing partnerships and explored expanding them in areas like health, agriculture, water, and renewable energy. They also discussed supporting African countries' access to nuclear technology for peaceful purposes. Algerian Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense, Chief of Staff Army General Said Shingriha continued his visit to Seoul International Aviation and Aerospace Exhibition on Monday. He attended the opening ceremony hosted by South Korean President Lee Jae-myung and met with South Korea's Joint Chiefs Chairman, Lieutenant General Jin Yong-sun. The two sides discussed strengthening bilateral military cooperation, with Shingriha expressing Algeria's readiness to expand collaboration and his Korean counterpart praising the move toward a strategic partnership with broader opportunities for the future. Still with Algeria-related news, Algerian Prime Minister Sifi Reeb says the country is making steady progress towards sustainable development, focusing on diversified economy, social cohesion, and environmental protection. Speaking at the inauguration of the National Economic, Social, and Environmental Council, Reeb highlighted Algeria's push for renewable energy projects and major advances in agriculture, including strategic initiatives in the south, all in line with President Tebboun's vision for a stronger social state.
Algeria is moving forward today with steady steps toward achieving sustainable development founded on diversified economy, a cohesive society, and a protected environment. This requires redoubling efforts to realize the vision of the President of the Republic, which is particularly based on promoting transparency and good governance, diversifying the productive base, encouraging innovation, investing in human capital, completing the digitization process, and accelerating the transition toward a green economy and clean energy.
Algeria and the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank met Monday to explore funding for major projects in hydrocarbons, mining, and seawater desalination. Prime Minister Mohammed Arqab highlighted ongoing projects like the Gharj iron mine, the integrated phosphate project, and desalination plants, stressing Algeria's role in regional and global energy security. The bank president, Laqan Jin, praised Algeria's clear vision for developing its energy and mining sectors and reaffirmed the bank's commitment to supporting future projects. In other regional news, Portuguese writer and human rights activist Vito Alvarez accused Morocco of trying to legitimize its occupation of Western Sahara and deny the Sahrawi people their right to self-determination. In an article for a Free Sahara, Alvarez called the Moroccan plan a violation of international law and urged the UN to uphold its commitments to the Sahrawi people. Moving on to the war in Sudan, a drone strike hit a displacement center in Al Fashar, Darfur on Sunday, killing at least 60 people. Residents say more than 50 others were injured. Civilians are taking shelter from drones as hunger and the humanitarian crisis worsen in the besieged town. More details with Safian Kinturi.
This is the Al-Arqam Reception Center for displaced people in Al-Fashir, or at least what is left of it. RSF attacks have reduced everything to rubble. Bodies of the victims, wrapped in blankets, are still laying on beds and on the floor. Most of those killed were unarmed, elderly people and children. In tears, a young woman shares her story.
This is a shelter. The rapid support forces attacked us during the night. Around 3 or 4 a.m., 2 rockets hit us. More than 50 people were killed, not counting the wounded. A 7-month pregnant woman had her leg broken and bled to death. We are displaced people. We have nothing to do with this war. We're just citizens who want to live.
After 2.5 years of relentless violence, the people trapped in the besieged city of Al-Fashir are barely holding on, stuck between hunger and constant attacks. Their only protection is whatever makeshift shelter they can find to hide from drones and shells.
This wasn't a one-time thing. It happens about 3 times a day, and we rush to the shelters. 4 of us, maybe more, have died and many were injured. Honestly, I've lost count.
This war, born from a brutal power struggle, has unleashed ethnic massacres and a deep humanitarian crisis.
Since the beginning of the crisis, there have been more than 15,000 trauma cases. And just to give you a more recent example, in the week of the 14th of September, there were almost 500 trauma cases which needed treatment in Al-Fashir.
According to the UN, more than 1 million people have fled Al-Fashir during the 18-month siege by the RSF, but escaping is dangerous and expensive. Many who remain have dug bunkers, trying to survive the daily strikes targeting civilians.
In another topical news story, President Donald Trump denied asking Ukraine to give up the entire Donbass region to Russia. He said he only suggested keeping the current division, with Russia controlling some areas and Ukraine retaining the rest. Speaking Monday, Trump also said he doesn't expect Ukraine to win the war against Russia, but added anything is possible in a conflict.
No, we never discussed it. We think that what they should do is just stop at the lines where they are, the battle lines. You have a battle line right now. The rest is very tough to negotiate. If you're going to say, you take this, we take that, there's so many different permutations. So what I say is they should stop right now at the battle lines. Go home, stop killing people, and be done.
What do you think should happen with the Donbass region then?
Let it be cut the way it is. It's cut up right now. I think 78% of the land is already taken by Russia. You leave it the way it is right now. They can negotiate something later on down the line. But I said cut and stop at the battle line. Go home. Stop fighting. Stop killing people.
In a related story, EU energy ministers are set to approve a permanent ban on Russian oil and gas imports on Monday in Luxembourg. The draft law would block by pipeline and LNG imports starting by 2028 at the latest, with a majority vote allowing the EU to move forward, despite objections from countries like Hungary and Slovakia that rely heavily on Russian energy. In another news story, President Donald Trump said the U.S. will keep heavy tariffs on India unless it stops buying Russian oil. He claimed Prime Minister Modi told him India would halt purchases, but New Delhi denied any such call and stressed its priority is protecting Indian consumers. Trump also suggested India would cut Russian oil imports by half, though Indian sources say no tangible reduction has happened yet.
I spoke with Prime Minister Modi of India, and he said he's not going to be doing the Russian oil thing, so that's it.
Well, why would India say that they're not going to do?
I don't know, but if they want to say that, then they'll just continue to pay massive tariffs, and they don't want to do that.
France is seeing a surge of capital flight, with wealthy investors moving money to safe havens like Luxembourg and Switzerland. Political instability and rising tax worries are shaking confidence and could worsen the country's economic crisis. More details with Salman Asib now.
France, once a go-to spot for tourists and investors, isn't feeling like a safe home for local capital these days. There's been a big wave of money heading abroad as political unrest and talk of new taxes downed confidence, nudging wealthy French to look for steadier places to stash their cash. Worried business owners and affluent individuals are increasingly shifting large investments into insurance contacts in Luxembourg and securities accounts in Switzerland. You can see it in the numbers. French investments in Luxembourg insurance jumped 58% in 2024, reaching a record of 13.8 billion euros, a pretty clear sign that trust in the domestic scene is slipping. In a short time, Luxembourg and Switzerland have climbed to the top of the list for French investors, and that's creating more uncertainty back home. It's getting tougher to finance local projects, and there is a real risk of an exodus of wealth if political instability and rising tax pressures keep piling up.
To another development, Seoul is optimistic about sealing a trade deal with the United States ahead of this month's APEC summit. After meeting U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, South Korea's top policy advisor, Kim Yong-hoo, said negotiations have made significant progress, though a few issues are still unresolved.
Stated that the talks are progressing positively and that Washington understands South Korea's concerns regarding the agreement's impact on the currency market. He added that the US has confirmed that the announcement of the trade agreement is imminent and expected to be released in the coming days.
President Donald Trump said rare earths, fentanyl and soybeans will be key topics in upcoming talks with China. He warned Beijing not to manipulate the rare earths market and said tariffs of up to 100% remain a possibility. Trump also confirmed he plans to visit China early next year and expressed optimism about reaching a fair trade deal with President Xi Jinping during talks in South Korea later this month.
I want to be good to China. I love my relationship with President Xi. We have a great relationship. I believe after we leave South Korea, we'll be there together. We thought that would be a good place to meet. And we're going to be meeting. I'll be in Malaysia, I'll be in Japan, I'll be in a couple of others. We'll be sort of doing a little bit of a tour. I've been invited to go to China, and I'll be doing that sometime fairly early next year. We have it sort of set. But I think we're going to have a very good relationship with China.
And finally, it's time to catch up on other news stories making headlines at the News in Brief with Yasin Erkti.
US President Donald Trump announced plans to raise tariffs on Colombia and halt all financial aid, accusing Bogota of being out of control. The move follows US military strikes on alleged drug vessels. Rodrigo Paz, candidate of the Christian Democratic Party and right-wing senator, won Bolivia's presidential runoff on Sunday with 54% of the vote against former President George Quiroga's 45%. According to preliminary results, more than 6 million Bolivians participated in the election. "49 countries will take part in the 28th edition of Algiers International Book Fair from October 29th to November 8th, with 1,254 exhibitors representing publishers and institutions. while Mauritania will be the guest of honor, with events highlighting global shifts, memory, AI, and African values. Algerian Olympic and world champion Kylian Amour qualified for the uneven bars final at the World Artistic Gymnastics Championships in Jakarta with a top score of 15,533. The 19-year-old also scored 12,666 on floor and ranked second overall with 53,850 points.
That's the end of our news for tonight. For more updates, you can always check our social media platforms. Thank you for tuning in. Do take care.